Hi guys, here's vlog number 3 about Lee trying to express racism in her novel. We've gone over brief examples in chapters 1 and 2, and then a good lead up in chapter 3, example of that. But I want to skip around a bit and go to chapter 12 because chapter 12 we learn a lot more about Calpurnia. If you don't remember, that's their servant, the Finch's servant. We learn more of her background, her own colored community, even the power that white people have over colored people. And it's honestly, like, as you read through it, it was a real thing also back in that day. And so I was reading something and Lee was just saying she wasn't trying to write an autobiography. She was really just trying to write what she knew. And so as you read through this chapter, you really find out more about what went on in that day. Like all this stuff, the characters may not be real, but the actions and what happened was real. And so we'll see that. Just a quick summary before we get started with my evidence, because I want the evidence to make sense. But basically, chapter 12, we learn that Jem is growing older, which is Scout's brother, and so he's getting more annoyed with Scout, saying to grow up and stop pestering him, and so this makes Scout mad, but also excited for Dill to come back for the summer, but then we find out that Dill's not going to come back, so Scout's just really loving life, because then also Atticus had to leave because he's a part of the state capitol committee and had to take over new legislation, so brother's annoyed, Dill's not coming back, his father's gone, or her father's gone, and so Calpurnia takes over the household again, and one of the first things she does is take her kids to her colored church, and this is where we learn a little bit more of her background. Long story short, just basically her ancestry of slavery, and so starts on page 157 where she's getting the kids ready for church. Says, "I don't want anybody saying I don't look after my children," she muttered. "Mr. Jem, you absolutely can't wear that tie with that suit. It's green." "What's the matter with that? Suit's blue, can't you tell?" "Hee hee," I howled. Jem's colorblind. His face flushed angry, but Calpurnia said, "Now you all quit that. You're gonna go to First Purchase with smiles on your faces." First Purchase African M.E. Church was in the quarters outside the southern town limits across the old sawmill tracks. It was an ancient paint-peeled frame building, the only church in Macomb with a steeple and bell. Called First Purchase because it was paid for from the first earnings of freed slaves. Negroes worshipped in it on Sundays and white men gambled in it on weekdays. So, Scout's the narrator, also meaning that she's learning a lot more about her own servants and mothers in a way, ancestry and her own background. So First Purchase because it was the first church that was made under freed slaves and all their earnings, and then we can go further and see that there's a tension between colored people and white people. We really see this on page 158, the tension between them. There's a disrespect from for colored people that come from the white people. And we can see this where Calpurnia is at church, someone walks up to her and is just like, "Why are there kids here?" So I want to know why you bring in white children to this church. "They're my company," said Calpurnia. Again, I thought her voice strange. She was talking like the rest of them. And so we see that there's obviously a tension here already. And this is a great statement, also because Calpurnia is standing up for them all, further proving that the household and Atticus takes care of her and isn't for racism. And if she had been treated differently, the kids may not even be at church. Kids may not even really be taken care of as a mother figure as Calpurnia is. And then lastly, a really good example that really hits the theme of racism and really everyone knows is page 164. We learn of Tom Robinson, who was accused of something and went to jail because of it, and he was accused by a white man, so he can't get out, and then his wife is unable to find a job and has a family, so everyone's making donations at church. Where is it? Before he could answer, I felt Calpurnia's hand on my shoulder. At its pressure, I said, "We thank you for letting us come." Jem echoed me, and we made our way homeward. "Cal, I know Tom Robinson's in jail, and he's done something awful, but why won't folks hire Helen?" I asked. Calpurnia in her navy voile dress and tub of a hat walked between Jem and me. "It's because of what folks says Tom's done. Folks are anxious, too, to have anything to do with any of his family." "Just what did he do, Cal?" "Old Mr. Bob Ewell accused him of raping his girl and had him arrested and put in jail." "Mr. Ewell?" My memory stirred. "Does he have anything to do with those Ewells that come every first day of school and then go home?" So basically, they're just confused. The kids are confused as to why people are believing him, because he never even makes sense in the first place, but it's because he is white. So, proving that whites have power over the colored